right. So what do you do when you go to Costco? What about samples? You get samples. Get those samples. You get big.
Imagine if they had samples out of Scotch. It'd be a line constantly. I'll take 2 of those.
Oh, that's
please.
awesome.
What is up?
Hey guys, it is Scotch for Dummies.
Guys, and the Scotch journey to help you with your next Scotch purchase. Can you believe this bottle? Look how big this bottle is.
This makes you look like you have baby hands when you carry it. You know, it's one of those huge.
It's a big one.
I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Well, you got
I'm not gonna lie, but
I did.
it is 12-year-old Scotch.
A 12-year-old blended Scotch whiskey from Kirkland. Kirkland signature brand. It is 40% ABV and only about $46 for a 1.75
In glass.
liter in glass.
Probably half that cost was the glass.
I mean, it's
It's a substantial bottle.
Yeah, it's
it's
like the
heavy.
bottom's like 1.5 inches thick. So yeah.
But we got this at Costco. So
Yep.
this is one of the Kirkland is a big. Obviously, if you go to Costco, Kirkland is their big series of I wouldn't say knockoff, but it's their
I would say they have value priced decent alcohols.
But it,
right?
Yes. So
But they're
their
Kirkland.
wines, their gins, their vodkas, their everything.
And Kirkland, it's not just alcohol. Kirkland is lots of things, but I mean, they put out good stuff. And so I'm excited to try this. What do we know about this bottle? We know that they
It's big.
source a lot of whiskey because they have
They do. Yeah, they use Arthur Murray, or Alexander. I'm sorry, Alexander Murray. They don't do dance. Alexander Murray to do the to do the sourcing, and they bring in casks from all over. This is a blended Scotch whiskey, so they're never going to admit to what distilleries are pulling from, but it's 40% ABV, blended Scotch whiskey.
And usually, if you do some research, you'll find out that Glenfarclas has been named before. I mean, big name,
And
distributor.
Alexander Murray generally does like
Yeah,
pretty
they're-
good quality
yeah,
stuff.
they
So
do, they do.
I'm kind of curious about this. So all we know is that it's 12-year-old blended Scotch and it was aged in oak.
Oak, yeah,
That
Asian
is
oak
it.
cask.
Some kind of oak. So
Let's do the nose.
all right, let's do this. It is lightish in color for a 12-year. I will say that.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it has coloring in it.
Well, if it does, it needed more.
Well, I mean, if you look at it on the screen there, it's nice and orange and or red.
It's got a bit of a smell to it. It's
What does that mean?
I was gonna say it's got an acetone.
yeah,
kinda-
that's
does
what I
it?
was gonna say. It's kind of like
little grain forward.
yeah, grain forward. That's a very polite way to say.
very PC of you in the whiskey world. Very PC.
All right, well, that's all I'm getting on the nose. Let's.
Well,
hit it.
no, there's more sweetness in there.
Is
I'm gonna give it a second.
Is there?
I get some lemon in there too. I think that's part of the bitter nose. I don't know what that is.
There's a hint of vanilla struggling to make it out of the glass.
Very barely. Let's
All
hook
right,
this on
let's
the
get this in. Okay, not bad. Better than the nose. The palate's much
A
better.
little plum on the initial palate.
Very smooth, very easy.
Rolls into more of a
Bit of oak.
little bit of peat in there.
It may be like a hint of like a smoky quality to it, like on the very back palate. I mean, it's not overwhelming me with its it's
It's not coming in
flavor
slow.
forward notes, but it isn't.
I was
There's nothing
worried.
like weird off-putting about it.
Yeah.
I would say it's a pretty base
Whew.
whiskey, right? It's got a little bit of sweet. There's a little bit of baking spice. I do think it might be a hint of smoke on the back end, maybe just like a touch, but there might be a little something there.
The nose is not great. I'll give it that. Not much. It's very sweet forward. I wonder if that's why they make it like this. Just a kind of.
Oh yeah, there's a light vanilla or creaminess in the middle of it. Really light flavoring. It's not forward in any of its flavor components, but it actually kind of blends together fairly well. With that nose, I was a little worried about the palate being really, elbows and angriness and things. But it is 12-year-old, so it's been aged for 12 years in a
I'm
cask.
kind of thinking water is probably going to be its friend, only because you're not buying a 1.75 liter bottle of anything for $40 to savor it as a
the big
neat
gulp.
whiskey, right?
It's the big gulp.
Like this
Yeah,
is for
This is the big
like,
gulp of
it's
whiskey.
made for Scotch and soda.
It's a blender. It's a blender
right?
Scotch. It's
So my guess is that water's not gonna it's not gonna hurt it any, and it was actually probably blended specifically for that.
12-year-old.
Oh.
I did the Scotch.
It's actually a little sweeter on the nose now.
Yeah,
Water.
more vanilla's coming out.
Yeah, it's a little more honey now. What I had before. That acetone, what we'll call it, is wafting off.
Yeah, the honey is what I was getting in the middle. It wasn't vanillas. It was honeys that was coming through the center before.
Yeah, just oak
I mean,
and honey.
Honestly, I think I like it better with the water. It wasn't horrible neat. There just isn't.
It's okay.
There's not a lot to the whiskey.
Okay, now so I just had my first finish.
Lots
with
of
it,
honey on
and
it.
it definitely got a lot
Wow.
more honey at the end of the
Yes,
palate there.
that-
That I didn't have.
Totally. I agree with you on that.
Like it just kind of, like I just had a bite of honey. Like it was that.
That's
thick.
exactly what I'm getting too. It's like biting into honeycomb.
Wow.
Totally. Wow, that's really interesting.
It was not there before.
It was through the middle before, but now it's like the whole middle finish
Yeah.
is honey.
Yeah.
I don't want
Not a whole lot.
A little more in there.
You're not getting honey
A
on the
little
ears?
bit of honey.
I mean, I'm getting some honey, but I'm not getting like all honey. I am not getting. I mean, it's starting to come back a little bit, but the baking spices were the only thing that was like really interesting to me on the neat. And
It's coming through the middle.
it lost it. It's starting to maybe come back a little bit. I don't know. If anybody else is ready to go, knock yourself out. I'm gonna
You wanna
shoot
go?
some
Yeah, I'll
baking
start.
spices.
This is actually this is a better tasting whiskey than I was expecting, quite honestly. We had opened this bottle before and tasted it when we first got it. It's been a minute, and it was I think more grain forward than I was expecting when you first opened it. This one now, it's a pleasant whiskey. It's nothing to write home about. You could share it with friends. I wouldn't highlight it in a flight or anything like that. I think it's great for blending if you're making a whiskey cocktail. The flavors aren't off. There's no elbows, there's no strange flavors that are fighting. It just kind of comes together pretty well. Value is great. It's great for the value, but it's not a fantastic whiskey. I mean, I would argue that, so Johnny Walker Black is a 12-year-old whiskey, right? And I would say that's got more flavor components, a little smokier than this. So what am I thinking of a ranking? I'd probably give it a 2. I mean, it's a really middle of the road whiskey. It's nothing to write home about. The value brings it up. It's probably worth that money. It's not awkward, but it's nothing to, highlight on your bar. If you don't have it on your bar, you're not necessarily missing anything. So that's where I'd go with it.
You said what, $45?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a good price.
That's a good price for the size of bottle too. That's a lot of whiskey.
That's like
It is a lot.
$18 a bottle. For $18 for a regular bottle of whiskey, normally you get much worse stuff than you got here.
Yeah. So, I mean, you pretty much said it. We've said it already. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on with this. It's okay. Like for a 12-year-old, I would think I would want more than this. I mean, I would give me a monkey shoulder or, naked grouse, whatever, any day for this. I mean, because when you look at this, I'm immediately thinking, okay, this is going to be sherry-ish or something.
But those are twice the price.
That's true. That's true. But
Yeah.
we're talking about this Kirkland 12, what it is right now. And I think you're right in the money. I think it's the balance of the price, the volume, and what we're getting out of this. It's a solid 2. I wouldn't go any higher than that. I think you nail it too. It's probably really good for mixing more than anything else.
Yeah.
Doing it neat, probably the best out of the 2, I think.
I'd agree.
But it's what it is.
All right. I'm going to temper my score based on the fact that I really do think that this whiskey is made for a specific market share, right? It's for people that are making mixed drinks or scotch and sodas or stuff like that. And they don't really care. They want a base spirit
Yeah.
Yeah.
to put with that, right? And so I think this is fine. Like it's got a little bit of honey. There's a little bit of baking spice. There was a hint of vanilla in there somewhere. It mostly tastes, well, initially I thought it was like grain whiskey and they like drove by the grain whiskey with like a malt whiskey barrel and like whatever splashed into that was what you got.
So you're saying we're being generous, is what you're saying.
However, like there's nothing like crazy off-putting about the whiskey. I mean, it's fine. It is what it is.
It's fine.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing that I'm like rushing back to pour another glass, right? It is what it is. I think the value kind of brings it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would probably rate this whiskey like a 1.5, but for the value,
Exactly.
it's probably a 2.
Yeah.
I would agree.
because it is very reasonably priced, and honestly, for the money, like I'm with Andrew. I would expect like more elbows and crazy stuff going on in the glass, and just like off-putting flavors or just weird stuff. And it really doesn't have much of that. It would actually be good in a mixed drink, and I think it's fine as that.
Yeah, I've had a lot worse whiskeys for a lot more money. Than this.
yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in Costco and you see this bottle, obviously it's a big bottle. I mean, it's
if
okay.
you're looking for a blending Scotch, pick it up. It's a great value.
If you're looking for like a neat sipping Scotch, I don't think this is your.
No, I agree.
There you go.
Yep.
Solid 2.
All right.
There you go.
See you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
One.